So welcome to The Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Reiman, your broker builder. And today I have a special guest coming from Land O'Lakes, Florida. He's a top producing real estate agent and owner of the Bello Home Team with eXp Real Estate. He has had over 100 million in solo sales with 450 real estate closing in just 5 short years. He's a founding member of the Arte Syndicate. If you guys don't know what that is, you got to check it out. And also, most important, a husband and father of 4, Shaun Bates. Thank you so much for coming on The Real Build. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, Bill, for having me on the show. So just one thing that I have to clarify and get out of the way real quick. It's over 500 homes sold.
Over
Not 450. We just don't update that bio stuff that often. So we probably, whatever you had was probably something that was
in the
6 months old or older or something like that. So yeah.
Even better. So over 500, yeah. That's awesome. And so let's jump into this real quick, Shaun. So, I want to get started out by asking about your background. You have done a few different things. I've done my research just to let the audience know you did a few different things prior to real estate. So let's talk about who is Shaun Bates.
Yeah, so my name's Shaun Bates. I'm a Florida native, so a lot of people are surprised to hear that because there's not that many of us. I guess there's more now than there were before, but born and raised in Florida, pretty much just north of Tampa, so not far from where my office is now. And we come from pretty humble beginnings. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, and hardworking family. Mom and dad both worked full time. And when I was young, from an early age, I think I learned really what it was to be a business owner. My dad worked 16 hours a day. He would leave at 3 a.m., get home at 6 p.m., 7 p.m., working every single day. So growing up, I think we learned what a real work ethic was in our household. And it's one of those things that kind of translated to us as we became old enough to work. So I remember when I was 16 years old, first thing I did was go to work, still went to school, went to work. Same thing for all of my brothers. And my dad's company was a trucking company, so they owned dump trucks. So by the time I was 18, I knew that I didn't want to have anything to do with dump trucks because, greasing drive lines and changing oil and changing tires on dump trucks is just not the coolest thing in the world. Pretty crappy.
Yeah.
So I actually started in banking at 18 years old. My senior year of high school, I was working for Barnett Bank, which was a bank that was here at the time, and basically was in banking until I left to start real estate. So I was in different companies in banking all the way up until I started my real estate career.
Awesome. So what year did you start? What year did you start real estate, and what was your reason? Why did you transition from banking into the real estate industry?
So it's kind of interesting. I started in real estate in 2013. My big reason for even getting licensed, I went through a divorce in 2012. And at the time, my 2 boys, we have 4 children, but my wife, Laura, has 2. I have 2. We're a blended family. So in 2012, went through divorce. My boys were 2 and 4 years old at the time. And I was working for a local credit union here in Tampa, making about $42,000 a year. And I had a mortgage and a car payment and 2 little kids. And I just couldn't make ends meet. It was like the further along that I got, the harder it was getting. So it was at that time that I decided to get my real estate license. So, fast forward into January 2013, decided to go to school. Actually took 2 weeks of vacation off of work so that I could go to real estate school and just kind of get it out as quick as possible. You know what I mean? Got licensed, and, as soon as I got licensed, I, excited, threw it out on social media, Facebook, and, some friends saw it and family. And one of my actual clients from the credit union reached out to me and was like, hey, I do real estate. I'm a broker. Might have something you're interested in. Reach out to me and let's chat. So reached out to him, and basically he said, hey, look, here's the deal. Here's how you become a real estate agent. Sphere of influence and all the other things that you do as a real estate agent. I was like, well, not really, I'm just kind of looking to do something part-time. I have my job still. I'm not planning on leaving. And so he said, well, I have this other thing you might be interested in. And it was basically buying for an investor. So what he was doing is he had a relationship with one of the large investors that came to town, and we started buying for them. So effectively what my job was, it was super sexy. It was like the coolest thing ever. I would, from 6 p.m. till 12 o'clock every night, I would run through hundreds of properties in the MLS, checking the criteria to see if that property was a match for what they wanted to buy. And I would run it through a bunch of spreadsheets and pull comps on it and pull rents just to see if it actually worked for what they were looking to buy. And then if it worked, we'd send them an email. That email would come back, and then it would actually not come to me, and the whole deal would be done. I was making 10% of the commission for every deal that we got under contract at that point. So 2 months in, we have a couple things under contract, not a lot, obviously 10%, you're talking maybe a couple $100. So we have a couple things under contract, and my manager calls me and says, hey, had a discussion today, and they want you to inactivate your license, your real estate license. And I said, why? And they said, well, it's considered maybe a conflict of interest. And I said, I don't understand why. And they said, because we do mortgages. And I said, well, I get that, but I'm not a mortgage officer. You know what I mean? So I don't see why it's a conflict. And they said, well, it's been decided, so that's what you have to do. So now I'm like, well, shit, what do? I'm back at that same spot where, if I get rid of my license, I don't even have the potential for this other couple $100 a deal that I could make, you know what I mean? And I'm back to square one. So I quit. Gave my 2 weeks notice and quit. My whole career up until that point had been in banking and finance since I was 18 years old. And, that was, 7 years ago, or 6 years ago. So I'd been 35 at the time. So 35 years old, had always had a career with a paycheck, left and decided I was going to do real estate, and that's it. I didn't have a choice, had to make it work. This is my new career. So July 1st, 2013, here I go.
That's awesome. That's great. It's how a lot of people get started that are successful in the business too. I mean,
yeah.
As you know, part-time in real estate's a hard thing to do too, because once you really start going in it, you are full-time if you can't commit.
It was scary. I'm not going to lie. Still looking back, I'm like, God, what was I thinking? You know what I mean? It must have been some kind of crazy or something at that point, because, vacation, benefits, all that stuff. You don't get any of that when you just go out and decide to go into real estate,
Yeah, exactly. So on your transition though, I know you got a little bit into this. So why did you, choose real estate over other industries, other sales industries too, to be exact?
So, at the time, I just bought a house, it wasn't my first house, but it was my first house on my own. And going through that process, kind of just, picking up how it works and how the transaction works, and paying attention to what my agent was doing and all of those things. I've kind of and I was in banking, so naturally it was about numbers for me. I was a numbers guy, you know what I mean? We had sales goals, we had it kind of, in my mind, was an easier transition to go there than try something else. So that was it, really. It was just in kind of prepping and doing my own purchase myself and seeing the things that went into it. I kind of figured out what it would take to do it, and knew that what we already did, being in the credit union, things that we offered, was very similar. So that was the parallel that I made to let me go and try to do this and see if I can make a little money doing it as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so I want to dive, right into this with you. As you know, the show is all about delivering as much value to the customer that we can. So let's talk about the process of real estate. So, that the potential customer can have a better understanding of, how to go about real estate. Because it is, a lot of people are afraid of it, as the process, and it's a big investment. It's one of the biggest investments somebody will make.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start out with the initial consultation with you. So when dealing with buyers or sellers, realtors have to start with the initial consultation with a customer what questions are you asking that the customer should look for when choosing an agent?
So for us, the most important thing, I would say for a client looking for an agent, there's a couple things you want to look for. But the first thing that we ask when we talk to somebody, and it's the most important thing, it guides the whole transaction, everything that we do from that point on, is what is their goal? Where are they at? What is their goal, and what is important to them? And those things are how we tailor the whole experience for the client, because everybody has a reason for doing real estate, or for buying or selling a house. Everybody has a reason to buy or sell a house. So we determine what that reason is, what is their goal, and why that goal matters to them. We really, really focus on digging deeper. So, okay, we know you want to buy or sell a house. That's what everybody's doing in real estate. But why? Why are you buying and selling a house? Are you buying because your family is expanding? Are you buying because the house is too big and you need to downsize? And then with that, okay, your family is expanding. Is there any other things that are important that really affect your decision to buy that we can make sure to address right up front? Like, what areas do you want to be in because of schools and things like that? Or, what things with the house in particular are important if you have a family? Some people, they live in the kitchen and that area's got to be central of the house for everything there. Well, not all houses are built that way anymore. You know what I mean? A lot of houses are built with smaller kitchens and you can't do that. So we really, really, really focus on what the client wants and what they need and why. And first and foremost, that's everything for us. But for somebody that's looking for an agent, they want to find someone that's relevant. And when I say relevant, you need to have someone that's doing 3 to 4 deals a month in the market, because that means that they're relevant and they actually understand what's going on in the market. Versus, an agent that's, let's say, you hear all the time, I've been in real estate for 17 years. That's great. You sell 2 houses a year. That doesn't mean you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? And markets change. Markets change. Clients' needs change. Just because you've been in the business forever doesn't mean you actually have a pulse on what's going on in the business. So that's a big, big thing for us, is we like to make sure anybody, we get people that interview us, and it's not about trying to prove how great we are. Again, it's always about us determining what their needs are and how we can help them, and then just kind of giving them the guidance that they need to make an informed decision. We're not always going to be that guy for somebody, and that's okay. Maybe they like someone else better and somebody else is the guy for them or whatever, but we're going to always give them the best information that is going to be useful for them, including at the point of choosing an agent.
Yeah, and it's just like you said. I mean, it's going plain and simple, going above and beyond for the client. Some people, it's just putting a sign in the yard and putting it on MLS, and that's it. And then there's no legwork behind it. But it's putting in that legwork, like you said, and also with the potential buyers, asking the right questions is so important too. Because if you're taking them to 20 houses in a day because you didn't ask the right questions, that's just going to tire them out. And then by the time it's all over, they're not going to want to buy anything because they're exhausted, and all the houses all end up looking the same. So, great points right there.
And that exact conversation happens. We tell clients, our goal is to help you A, B, and C. So we really fine tune that search for them. And when we do that, we're basically saying, hey, look, here's what's out there based on what we've discussed and what's important to you. What we need you to do is look at the top 3 here that you look at and say, you know what, this is a house that I would want to live in and buy. And that's when we schedule to go see them. Usually it doesn't take multiple times going out and seeing. We definitely won't schedule 5, 7, 10 houses because it's counterproductive. And once you see more than 3, people forget what they've seen anyways. And it just makes it harder to actually make a decision. You can put people in the paralysis by analysis, just because you give them too much to look at, and then they end up not being able to make a decision.
Yeah, exactly. Great points right there.
Yeah.
So What are, you know, as well as I do too, especially in a market like this, there's a lot of real estate agents out there and more people keep getting their license, especially in the state of Florida. It's like the first thing a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to stand out from the rest of the many real estate agents in your area? What should people take notice of when choosing a realtor?
So, one of the things that we've been doing it for quite some time, is we've been focused on providing value to our clients. And that's really educating them as much as we can on different things in the market, about houses, about housing, about buying, about selling, and anything and everything outside of that. And that's been a big focus since, back in the very beginning. But one of the things that I started doing, and, it was kind of early on, but, there was others, but just definitely not like it is now, going back to like 2015, 16, we were doing video, like, hey, this is Shaun, like hold up my camera, like, here's what I see, here's what's going on. I mean, definitely not great, like, quality material, like made videos, but it gets the point across. And for the people that were in our network or that were seeing that, they loved it and they appreciated it so much, because we were just giving them the information that they need. Whether they were buying or selling, it doesn't matter. We're still giving them that information that they want to know. Because just like our conversation when we started, we're talking about the market. Everybody always wants to know about the market.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always out there providing, hey, here's what's going on, and here's what it means to you if you're a buyer or if you're a seller, and how it's important for what you're trying to do. So, that's one thing that we do. A lot of agents are like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me on social media. And we really try to tailor it towards, it's not about us, it's about you. Like, what do you need? And we'll provide that for you.
As it always should be in any business too, all about delivering the value to the client. That's what this show is actually about too.
Yeah.
So let's talk, and this is very important subject, comes up quite a bit too. Let's talk about commission structure.
Yeah.
So we know commission structure is important to many of our customers. There are more and more variations of companies popping up, like fixed price, low percentage,
Mm-hmm.
and I've even seen a monthly charge one. I said this before, where they charge just to put the listing into the MLS monthly, a fee. That's it. What should customers know up front when discussing commission structure, and how do you handle this?
So low commission does not always mean more money in their pocket. And in most cases, it does not mean more money in their pocket. You have agents that come into the market and they're new, and they'll sell a house for way lower than what the competition will, and that's basically their lack of experience in understanding what it takes to properly market and sell a house and get good value for a client. And they'll just throw it on MLS and put it, they'll go to Zillow, and then they'll hope it'll sell. Sometimes it will, but that lack of experience that you're not paying for is going to almost definitely come back and bite you at some point. And you just have all kinds of issues that can come up as a result. You have issues with pricing, you have issues with experience. You need an agent that is experienced to be able to guide you through what's, could potentially happen if they haven't done it and they're saying, oh, I want your business, so I'll sell it for nothing. You're not going to get a good experience, and chances are the house isn't going to sell because of something else that they're unaware of. The other thing we have right now is we have iBuyers in the market, open door offer pad, stuff like that. There's a place for them. That is great if that's, what somebody needs to do to sell their house because they have to move right now and that's the best option for them. They can go that route. The big thing that we've seen, and this is what we've seen in our market. It may not be the same in every market. We're not speaking for everybody, but we've actually run those services in comparison to our own properties that we've listed, and they come in way lower than what we know a seller is willing to accept with their fees bundled in. So it's like, if people aren't educated or don't ask, like, hey, what would my home sell for? Even with commissions and things like that, they're not going to realize that their house is going to sell less with those companies. So like, what is your goal? Again, kind of always boils back to like, what do they need? What are they trying to do? What's their timing? What's important? If it's somebody that has something that happened in their life and it has to go right now, that's cool. They can do that. Most of the time, that's not the case. And they might be just hurting themselves by just not asking questions.
So staying on that cost topic, so say you're working with sellers, how do you get them the most money for their home? What should they look for when interviewing an agent?
So that goes back to that experience conversation we talked about, relevance in the market, knowing what the market's doing.
Mm-hmm.
We always provide all of our sellers all of the information that pertains to their house. What's important for what you're trying to sell. And that's the houses that are the best comparable options out there that are going to be a couple things. It's going to be what an appraiser uses. Most houses are not cash sales, so there's usually an appraiser that's involved. We want to make sure that we're looking at the houses that are the best reflection of what it is that they're selling. And then basically, we give them the price, all the price information, all of the stats for the market overall, like, the sale price to list price for the community, sale price, list price for the market, give them the stats on timeframes for selling, all of that stuff that they should know so that we're setting the expectations for them. And then at that point, basically with everything in the conversation we've had, we can say, okay, put yourself in the position of being the buyer for your house. With all of this information that you have here, what is your house worth to the market?
Mm-hmm.
It's not me pricing your house. I'm not the guy that comes in and says your house is worth this, because it's not how it works. The market determines the value of your house. All I'm doing is I'm your guide. I'm the guide. I'm the one to help you achieve your goals, no matter what you're doing in real estate. If you're a buyer, if you're a seller, if you're an investor, if you're a wholesaler, whatever it is, everybody's got a different goal. And the plan is tailored around that. As a seller, your best bet is to price it right. You're going to get the most money for your house right then and there and quickly. Houses are not like a fine wine. They don't get better as they sit on the market. It just doesn't work that way. And the longer they go, the more perceived issues there are with the house. So, buyers will think there is something wrong with the house. You'll see more agents coming in saying the house is overpriced, the house is overpriced, the house is overpriced. And you'll have a reduction in showings because of the fact that the seller doesn't want to change a price. So setting the stage and pricing a house properly from the get-go is the best way to get the most for your house.
Yeah, and you actually just answered one of my next questions too.
Yeah.
About how a seller believes the house is, some sellers believe how their house is worth more than it actually is. And I mean, even with comps and everything, their emotion kicks in because they're emotionally attached to the home. Or they might have bought it when we had a super high market and they think they can make their money back, even though it's 10 years older,
Right.
So, but yeah, great answers there. So
we always tell sellers, we're not going to lie to you. We're not going to misguide you to get your listing. That's not what we're looking to do. It doesn't serve our overall purpose for what we are tasked with, to just tell you that we'll sell your house at whatever number. Some agents will do that because they want the listing. We won't do it. I would rather not have the listing and know that I told you the truth than to say, okay, I'll list it for whatever, and the house doesn't sell. I'm not doing you any favors, and I'm wasting your time, and that's not what I'm here to do.
Yeah, it's wasting their time, your time too. I'm the same exact way. If you're going to overprice the thing, why you're going to be the bad guy later on when you ask for that price reduction.
Right.
So why not do it right the first time, be upfront with them, which unfortunately, like you said, a lot of agents aren't. They just want that listing. That's what it's all about to them. And it drags on, and you say, I told you so a year 6 months later when it circles back. So.
And it just makes they get unhappy, you know what I mean? So I would rather someone be honest with me and tell me the truth. And flat out, I'll tell clients that, or tell prospective clients that. There's been times where I haven't gotten a listing. That's okay. Again, we're not for everybody, Sometimes people don't want someone to be honest with them. Sometimes they want someone that's going to blow smoke up their ass because it makes them feel good. Well, you know what? That's not us.
Exactly. So I want to reverse it now. So let's reverse that question. With buyers, how do you get them the best deal on a home?
It's a relative question. So again, it boils back down to knowing what's important for a buyer, and buyers' needs are different at times. You know, if you have a first-time buyer, sometimes they're not in the best cash position where they want to put all of their money into a house purchase. So maybe they have their down payment money, but they don't have quite enough for closing costs, or maybe they're a buyer that has, you know, low closing costs or no closing costs, like a VA buyer or an FHA with a low down payment. And, you know, they want to save a little bit of their cash so that they can do some things to the house after the fact. So closing costs are important to them. Sometimes you got somebody that just wants the best deal and they have the cash and it's all about the deal. So we always, you know, go into the process understanding what's important for them. So that way we know how to make an offer that's going to put them up for success and not, you know, wasting time. Again, time is that one thing that we can't get back. We can earn more money, you know, we can get a little more money here or there, whatever. We cannot get time back. And when a market is moving and things are selling fairly quick, you're going to waste a buyer's time if you don't approach things properly. So, you know, we make sure not to look at houses that are way overpriced. If it's overpriced and we know that someone needs closing costs, that's probably not the house that we need to look at, because you don't stand a good chance of getting that house when you have to ask for so much money off the price and then asking for closing costs on top of that. You're just basically setting yourself up for failure from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So we have these conversations with our clients so they understand that we want them to get to the finish line. And in order to do that, we have to set up the search and the offers with that goal in mind. That's the best way to get value for a buyer.
Awesome. Yeah, spot on. It's like we talked about earlier, asking the questions up front and knowing what exactly they want and narrowing it down and not going to, you know, 20 properties at once. So
exactly. Yeah.
Me and you talked about this, you know, a little bit earlier, but we both know the economy is good right now. Some people are hesitant to buy because they don't want to buy at the top of the market. I've seen you discuss this before. Might have been on one of your social media posts in the past. What do you do when a customer asks if they are buying at the top of the market? What do you say?
So that, again, it sounds kind of like a broken record. It goes back to, like, what is it? What is your goal?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do? So let's say they're not an investor, because most people are not, okay? And they're buying a house because they need a bigger house for their family. That's what matters. Mm-hmm. The reason why is what matters. If your reason why is because you're investing in real estate and the goal is to have a return within a certain time frame, it's a different conversation. For most people, that's not what they're looking to do. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when's the best time for them to buy a house? Well, it probably would have been yesterday, you know, since it's already gone, or, you know, 5 years ago when, you know, prices were lower. But based on, I need a house for my family, or, you know, we want to be closer to work, or we want to have, you know, a house that's in the school district that's desirable for our children. The best time to buy is today. And, you know, markets go up and down. I mean, we know this, you know, it's very cyclical. We've heard about this, but typically housing does not crash. Mm-hmm. We've only had one time where that's actually happened. You know, we're all, you know, alive and know about it because we lived through it. But the economy goes up and down. The overall market goes up and down. Housing usually stays pretty strong, and values don't really fluctuate like wildly. So that goal is the reason for someone to buy a house. You're not buying at the top if you're buying for your family, because your chances are you're not selling it in a year anyways.
Yeah. I like that answer a lot. Yeah, it is true. Because, I mean, some people may feel we're at the top too. It's like me and you talked about So even if it does pull back, how much is it really going to pull back, and how much is it really going to affect them too?
Right.
And especially if they're selling a house and then buying a new house too, well, you're going to wait, and then your house goes a little bit less too. So
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah. Well, and it's all relative. People are like, oh, well, I want to, they want to try to time it. Well, only the greatest people can time the market, and it still sometimes is coincidental. But in order to time it where you can sell high and buy low, you have to sit out somewhere at some point. So then what? Are you going to be renting? Well, then you're throwing the money away completely anyways. So, trying to time it doesn't typically work out. But as prices go up, let's say you have to sell and you have to buy. Well, yeah, the price of your house has gone up and you're selling higher, but also so has the prices of the other houses now that you're looking at buying. So it's really just making sure the numbers work and that everything else is in check that you're trying to do. If so, today's the best day. It's the best time to do it right now.
awesome. Spot on right there. I'm gonna pause real quick because I could hear myself in the background again. Yeah, see what you can. I don't know if it's that's better. I don't know if it's gonna affect anything. It shouldn't, because it's Zoom. I don't know. I've never had it, so we'll see. But now we'll keep going. Are you we'll start where we left off. So we both know marketing is huge. What should sellers look for in an agent's marketing strategy when selling a home? So you touched on this. You talked about some social media stuff that you were doing. What are you doing now as far as marketing to market a home?
So, anybody, when they list a house with an agent, they're going to get their house in the MLS, and it's going to be on Zillow, and it's going to be on Realtor.com. That's the given, basically. And that's because that's a checkbox in the MLS when the house goes there. So boom, there it goes. It's in Zillow later on that day. People do go there, and that does become an area of search. But what we find is our listings get a lot of exposure, competing exposure to the big sites, because we list it on social media and we put the information out there, Instagram and Facebook. We make sure to have the information about the house out there so that people can see it, because people are on those sites every day, multiple times a day. Check your phone. It'll tell you how many hours you're on Instagram or Facebook. And we want people to see our houses where they already are. So if that's where they are, then they're going to see them there. If they go looking on Zillow by chance, they'll see it there. But we also have our website where we can direct people there. And we would prefer them to search there because it'll cut out all the noise and the nonsense and everything else that you would find on Zillow, all the incorrect inaccuracies, and give them a much better medium to search for stuff. So we do a lot of marketing through social media. Depending on the house, we do quite a bit of open house activity still. Not necessarily all agents do open houses, but we still think it's an effective way to share and market a property. And we do want people in the community to know the value that we bring, which is another reason we're there. We're there because we want the people in the neighborhood to know that we take care of our clients. So it's another reason for us to be out there helping.
Yeah, and also, like, as you know, it's always important to get in front of everybody too, not just on a cell phone screen, but actually in person, face to face too. And actually, people love that face to face conversation.
They have questions, you know what I mean? And that question that they have today may set the stage for them making a decision in 2 or 3 months when they hadn't really explored anything yet. You know what I mean? So it goes back to giving them to the clients, not necessarily when they're asking for it or when they need it, but just making sure that we have everything that they might want, so that when it does come time, they feel like they're informed. And that's the biggest thing. We want to make sure they're informed.
Exactly. So kind of based off kind of the last topic a little bit here, is there something, I'm obviously in the building industry too, and, other than remodeling, stuff like that, what can a customer do while listing their home that is cost effective, that can add value to the property?
So there's a couple little things. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
you're fine. Yeah, go right into it.
Um, little things like the maintenance stuff that you haven't done, like, go and change your air filters because they're dusty and like you can see the stuff, like change your filters or do the little paint touch up on the spot where there was a water leak like 7 years ago. You know what I mean? Like do little maintenance stuff around the house that's going to prevent a potential buyer from either not making an offer on your house or that is going to come up as an inspection item. And if you have, let's say, you get a home inspection, the home inspection like has 100 little things on it, that indicates a house that hasn't been taken care of necessarily. So even though it may not be major stuff, a lot of little things in the eyes of a buyer will take a buyer and change their mind about a property, and then they'll go look for something else. And as much as we can, we'll say, hey, these are not big things, whatever. If you get a lot of little things, it'll scare somebody away. So take care of the little things is the best advice, the biggest advice that we can give. Go in and do the little touch-up things and all the little maintenance things that you haven't done. Change the air filters, take the shop vac and suck out the line for the AC, you know what I mean? Make sure that that's clean so that way, the day the home inspector's there and he's got the doors open and everything's going and the AC's running hard and they put the AC down to get it to cool and it doesn't cool like it should. Well, there's things that you're supposed to do to keep your house maintained. So doing those things in advance of, selling your house will be just hugely beneficial to eliminate the potential of inspection issues and gives a buyer the perspective of a maintained home, which is more value perceived for them.
Yeah, I mean, just the little things like even touching up some walls here and there, and it amazes me too. You'll see scrapes and scuffs on the walls. It's just an easy, just an easy brush stroke, something like that, The
other thing too, I always tell them is to like declutter, you know what I mean? Like if you see a countertop, that's all you should see is a countertop. It shouldn't be like all the stuff that you have that you keep in your house and everything there on top of the countertop. I understand that those are the things that you need that are important for you in your life. Mm-hmm. People want to see your house. So you need to declutter and get rid of as much stuff that's taking up space on top of counters and even some of the furniture in the house, because you want them to look through and see the house, not when they're walking through the house, they see just your stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Because when they do that, they're not looking at your house. They're so fixated on your things that they don't actually ever really pay attention to it, and they end up moving on. Mm-hmm. And that happens quite a bit. So decluttering is a big deal. If you have to get stuff into the garage or whatever, get a storage unit. It's not that expensive to get a storage unit. Get a storage unit, put a bunch of stuff in storage, so that way it's not in your house, and it makes it. You also need a buyer to be able to walk through your house too. Depending on how much stuff people have, sometimes they can't even do that. So, you want people to be able to move through the house and see it.
Mm-hmm. And another thing too, I always say too, curb appeal, whether you just putting a couple new plants out front, going to the hardware store, something, just sprucing it up, new mulch, whatever you got to do, it definitely helps. It's a big difference too. So going into the next subject here. So you used to be a solo agent and recently you started a team. How can a team benefit customers versus a solo agent? How can you maintain the same standard in service to the customer with a team?
So I actually have been a team for a little bit longer.
Okay.
And this is something that I was at an event yesterday and they were talking about teams and they were defining, different types of teams. And I was like, oh crap, I was a team before, because I had an assistant, basically. I hired someone to help me. Mm-hmm. So effectively, I've been a team since 2016 or something. But I didn't have any other team members, no other agents on the team. But becoming a team was the single best thing that I ever did for our customer service. It was the best decision I ever made to make the experience for our clients better, because it gives somebody else to be there and be present for the client. And sometimes I'm busy. I might be with other clients, and they need something. If you're pulled too much trying to do everything, you're actually you're hurting your service. So being a team gives you that economies of scale that help customer service a lot. And that, I think, is the one thing that really, really helped improve the experience for our clients and for everybody we work with, because it's not just about a buyer or a seller. It's everybody that we work with that's related to the transaction at all. It just made that experience better for everybody. So I think it's actually way more beneficial for the customer service experience when you are a team.
Great information on that. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. You have more people working together as a unit to help the customer, which is important, and more contacts for the customer in case they can't get a hold of you for some reason too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely agree on that. So another thing, so when selling a home, product knowledge is always key. I mean, everybody kind of in their home, they have a specific thing that they really loved when they bought the home or built the home, and they want it shown. And you kind of have to learn about it as you're walking through, when you list a house. So you should know as much about a house as you can. How are you applying this strategy? So what are you doing to showcase a home better as far as the product itself?
So I think one of the things that helped me early on in my career in real estate, because of the fact that I was buying for an investor and it was very much about numbers for them, which means that everything about the house mattered to the numbers. And it's not necessarily that same way for somebody that's buying the house for their family, for a traditional type of buyer. So what I learned early on by going to every single inspection was learning about the systems of a house and the maintenance of a house and the build quality of a house and the construction of a house and the things that go into it and how quickly systems age and different things that are important for a buyer, that then, and for sellers, that gives me that background or that information that I can then use with a buyer or seller. So by having all of this information that, maybe somebody would be like, oh, this stuff you'll never need to know, it's actually really helpful, because then I can go to a seller and say, boom, 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 back to that maintenance thing, and what do we need to do for top dollar? But also it helps me to understand what is really good about a house versus what may not be. And it would separate one house from another, because there's anomalies out there. Sometimes somebody has something done to a house that's way above what everybody else has. And when you go in there and you look at it, you're like, whoa, this is like, this is definitely not the norm here. So you actually have something that nobody else has here. And sometimes it doesn't mean value. Sometimes it just means that it's more sellable. Because appraiser doesn't necessarily give something value because it's different than what everybody else has. But when it comes to sellability, you have something now that others don't, and it translates to time versus sitting on the market or whatever, So I think that was one of the biggest things that helped me out from the get-go, was literally attending hundreds of inspections, looking at all that stuff.
Yeah, that'll definitely help, because you're seeing everything too and seeing reality. Definitely. So I want to kind of go into the process a little more. I know we've touched on this and we kind of spoke about, the beginning stage of the process, how you handle that, you ask the right questions and so on. So let's talk about the middle, and then let's talk about the end. It is important to guide customers from start to finish throughout the real estate process. I saw on your Instagram page, actually, you said your goal is to make the experience as stress-free as possible. Let's dive deeper into this and explain to customers looking for an agent how this can be done.
So stress-free and easy, that's the promise. And fun, we even promise that too. So a lot of times, even with somebody that's bought a house in the past, they don't necessarily know what they have to do or how to go about things or what the next phase is or what they should be focused on. left to their own devices, they have no idea. And a lot of inexperienced agents don't know how to guide their clients properly. So that's really the big thing. And how we do that is we hold their hand from the beginning and set the expectation from day one of how every part of the process is going to go. And as we approach things or we start to move through, we're always setting that expectation so they know exactly what's happening. But then we also do a lot more by being part of those processes. So, as a buyer, you have all kinds of stuff you got to do. You have title companies reaching out to you. Nobody even knows what a title company is. Like, what is that? Why are they calling me? You have your lenders calling you because they need stuff for the mortgage. You have, inspections that are going on. You have all these other things that are part of the transaction. And a buyer doesn't know, like somebody may call and say, we need this. Well, they don't know why. They don't understand. It doesn't mean anything to them. It's something they have no idea to really grasp what what it is for them. So we give them all of those things as we're going and explain what it is, what it means, why they have to do it, how it's important for them, so that they never have a question of where they are. There's never a lack of communication on what's happening, and they never feel like they're left out and the experience wasn't good because they didn't tell them. We hear a lot from people that work with other agents. They're like, oh, I never heard from them. And you know what I mean? I didn't hear from them for weeks on end. And that's like just crazy because you can't possibly build a relationship and expect someone to want to, not only work with you in the future, but tell their friends and family about you if you're not actually helping them, And, the biggest thing out of all of it is buying and selling a house is really, really stressful for people. They don't need that stress. They're still trying to live their life. They still have to work. They still have to be parents and spouses and, what else, other things they have. And buying a house on top of that is enough sometimes that just people feel like they can't do it. So we really, really guide them through, hold their hand, make sure to take the stress away from them so that they can just be in the process, get to the end and be happy.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. It is kind of sad in some cases too, like where they get to the end point and then you can't even get a hold of them anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've heard that from customers as well too, and it's not right. It's not normal, but it's out there quite a bit. Take the commission check and see you later, basically, which takes me into the next question. Building the long-term relationships, as is huge. How do you maintain, relationships with customers after the transaction is complete? So what are you doing afterwards too, to keep the relationships alive and talking to these people?
So that whole value piece that we're talking about, before, that is the kind of thing that's we consider a separator. It doesn't stop just because the relationship or because the transaction stopped. The relationship is ongoing. So we're still out there giving them value. If we have somebody that closes on a house January 25th, they're still getting a letter at the end of the year just reminding them, hey, did you do your homestead exemption? We make sure that people are aware of kind of some of those things that they still need to know of, even though we're not actively selling or buying a house with them at that point. But there's still stuff that they need to be aware of. So we do that. We make sure to follow up with them and check in with them on just to see how they're doing after the sale. But we're also just checking and seeing what their life looks like, on Instagram, social media, Facebook, things like that, because they're friends, they're important to us, and we want to know that everything's okay. So we're there and we're still providing that same value that we did before. Just because we've closed one, house with you doesn't mean you're not going to receive the same information that you had before. You're still going to get the same information, and you're going to be informed and as educated as you were the last time, whenever the next time is.
Yeah, and it's just keeping in touch with them on a constant basis, which is really easy today, believe it or not, with all the social media, email, all that stuff, or even a handwritten letter here and there too is
exactly
pretty big deal to them too. So, last question, what I ask everybody towards the end is what exactly do people need to look for when buying and selling a home, and why should they choose Shaun Bates as their realtor of choice?
Look for someone that's experienced. It's the biggest deal. It's the biggest difference maker out there. Everybody's got a cousin or somebody in the family that does real estate. Everybody knows like 5 real estate agents.
Mm,
That's great. Actually do the research and find out like who has the real experience, who's in the market and is relevant and is working with clients consistently, because that alone will either make or break the deal on many, many occasions. And, the reason they should choose us is their goal is what's important. It's not about us selling a house. You know what I mean? We do that, but it's not like that was the investor thing that we did. That was just numbers for them.
mm-hmm.
Houses, buying and selling houses is not a number for our clients. It is something for their life. It is experience for their life. It is building something in the future for their life. So we want to make sure that we are there to help them into that next phase of their life, because that is important. And that is what is taking consideration for them moving forward.
Awesome answer. Yeah, I could definitely see your passion behind that answer too, for helping people, and which is very good thing, especially with so many agents like we talked about out there too. So awesome answers today, Shaun. I really appreciate you coming on. So last but not least, where can people find you and connect with you?
So they can find us. First thing is, if they're just interested in real estate in general, go to the website, bellohometeam.com, BELLO hometeam.com. They can find us on Facebook. So Shaun Bates Realtor is our page on Facebook, and Instagram, Shaun Bates Real Estate. They can go there and check us out. We always have listings and information about the market and all kinds of other stuff that we're doing. You'll see my Arte stuff gets put in there as well, because that's important for, we're building the business and building our team and building what we're doing. So we want to make sure that the public sees that, because that's important for them as well. All our clients have businesses and they're trying to do the same things that we're doing. So it's just another way that we can give back to them by showing them how we're going about it.
Awesome. Shaun, you've been doing an awesome job. You did an awesome job on today's show. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Appreciate it, Bill.
Yep, thank you. And we will see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, sir.